Masculine energy is the extreme of the outer extremities of God. Femininity are the inner extremes in the depth, in the darkness of the womb of God. Welcome back to Along This Spiritual Journey. This is what I tell people the essence of masculine and feminine energy is about. When I first started talking about this topic back in 2019, everyone looked at me like I was crazy and they thought that I was only talking about the genitalia and gestures. And I'm like, no, there's masculine and feminine energy that represents both sides of God, right? Because if God is all, then God is whole, but God also has fragments and halves and fractions of self. This is what sacred geometry is, right? This is the unfolding. We always talk about the unfolding, but what about the folding in? This is why we have people who see things from a spiritual perspective, an emotional perspective, and people who see things from a logical and rational world because they both coexist at all times interchangeably within the energy and spectrum of what God is or a universe. Whatever we want to call it, to me, when I say God, it's an energy. It's not a human being, it's not a deity, it's not anything that human has tried to depict or illustrate as God. God is simply energy. We know it exists because we live off of it. We drink it, we eat it, we breathe it, we need it, we study it, we research it, we make documentations and documentaries on it. We have scholars and educators and all these people who understand how science works. And they breathe and believe it and live it, and they still forget that that is still a part of source, spirit, universe that comes from a place of the unknown within the depths and the darkness of us to discover the bones and the relics and how we try to read things backwards, because that's all we're doing when we look at history. We're reading history backwards and trying to create a picture of it. What I have learned on my experience and journey in this world is that we humans are the feminine energy. As a species, we represent a feminine energy because we're soft and expressive and we're beautiful and we can create and all these things, and we come out of the world and we create. We're not like other animals. We've realized that. We're not giraffes and elephants and things that are huge and knock things over, and they're like giants in their world, right? They don't need all these guns and spears and stuff to try to take things down. They represent energy of the masculine in a larger scale that's still the feminine. This is why we talk about Mother Gaia and energy and all these things that interchange between what happens in the womb space. There's so many chemistries that are happening in the womb space. You're getting electric energy, muscular energy, skeletal energy, DNA and all this, and your hormones and secretions. This is all happening on the inside of the womb. This is why the womb is a place that people have to understand it is not for the weak. That's why when we've been having this battle against masculine and feminine energy, and why there's been a battle against feminine energy as it represents, right? Because the archetypes of femininity are the cisgender woman, are the trans women, are gay men, all these things are gay women, all of it all exists within the spectrum of femininity, right? But they're expressions of femininity because each expression of God has different elements that it has to exist in. The element of summer, the element of winter, the element of spring and fall. These are all seasonal things that are chemistries for the feminine. This is why they go with the moon cycles and the gestation periods and all that stuff, because it's literally changing chemical bodies all the time, daily, throughout ethers, space and time. This is what the feminine energy is about. The masculine energy is about foundation. Since the beginning of time, this thing has existed and it's created more strength, more foundation. It packs on itself and compounds on itself and compresses on itself, and it puts pressure on itself, and it becomes hardened and stiff and non-malleable because it needs to be that way. It has to be that way. This is the polarization of it. Remember, everything has a shell. Your TV has a shell. Your shoes are a shell for your feet. Everything you do, clothes on some level are a type of protective shell because it's another barrier between you, your feminine flesh, and then a masculine garment to protect you, right? Because protection is masculine. And anything inside of that protection is feminine. This is why masculine energies love to love on feminine energies and why feminine energies love to be loved on by masculine energies. It's a duality and it's a spectrum of you can be, again, 50s, 50s, 75, 25, 65, 35, whatever combination of percentage you want to be that. But when you meet other energies like you in dating and relationships and stuff like that, that's what you're trying to figure out. When we say the chemistry, yes, there's an instant chemistry because there's a bond, a chemical bond between you that is so strong it pulls you together. But if you both have different formulas that keep conflicting with the overall formula that you're supposed to create this new compound or whatever it must be, then you're going to keep blowing up in your face, blowing up in your face. That's all relationships are. Are they're just literally a formula that didn't work and it blew up and you let it. Don't feel sad about it. Get back over to your beaker, get back over to your station and start mixing and figure it out. Okay, what is it that worked? What didn't work? Was this some of me or was this some of them? This is what masculine and energy genuinely are for. So the archetype of masculine energy is the cisgender man, the trans man, the gay man, but they're different spectrums of masculinity. I am still a man regardless of how people look at me because of my sexuality, right? I still have to go into the locker rooms, go into the patriarchal culture that's been deemed toxic, right? And I've learned how to survive in that, not only being feminine, but also masculine, because I realize these are hurt boys trying to hurt each other because they're so used to living in the hardness and the dryness. This is why it's not good to tell each other that we're not supposed to live in our feminine and masculine energy equally and fluidly. Because when I say equally, it's never going to be the same balance, right? It's just like a calibrator. It's not going to be the same balance, but the fluid doesn't change. It just recalibrates until you find the middle. That's it. You don't have to change all of you to fit in. You just have to learn how to balance where you fit in, and that's what's going to bring in the natural masculine energy and feminine energy for you. So again, it's just like this tree. Masculine energy is simply the shell. It is the shell that holds the design of the feminine God that lies within dormant, which is what we call the divine design, divine energy. And then we have our sacred masculine, our divine masculine. And since I say sacred masculine because it's almost like a ruin. It's something you protect on the outside because it represents this feminine spiritual energy, right? We hold on to relics and stuff because they represent something that is spiritual, that reminds us of who we are. That's why we hold on to it and tell stories about it, and we reuse it to keep our legacy and our memory of who we are alive. Culture and history is not about gatekeeping. It's simply about saying, I need to remember who I am so I don't become this thing that I'm not. And if I do become this thing that I'm not, then at least I have the know-how and the history and the wisdom to say, here's where I need to go back and fix some things before it goes all the way left or all the way right. I need to go right down the middle. Okay, that's what tracks are for. You take these hard masculine tracks and you put it on the fertile feminine land and you follow it and you see where it takes you. And we get all these beautiful sceneries and we get to enjoy Mother Nature and we get to enjoy the physical man creation. We can do both without stepping on each other's toes. It's learning how to integrate it into your life without trying to chastise others to become what you want them to be because you can't see yourself yet, okay? Remember, masculine is simply protection. It's a shell. However you design it, however you decorate it, is up to you. Feminine energy is simply the design, the energy that represents what it's going to become, the blueprint. Whatever you think you need it to be, you are the master creator. You are the master designer. We are manifestors. That's what that means. I can think a thought. That is a masculine process. But what comes to me, source energy, when you get that aha imagination moment, that is feminine energy, the creation energy. And that is the two halves of your brains connecting and speaking. And then they create this byproduct, this tertiary thing that is the child, the rebirth, what we call being born again. This is what we do all the time with fashion, looks, losing weight, taking care of ourselves, whatever, gaining in between. That's life. This is a vessel. The vessel will expand and shrink and whatever we do with it. But don't forget the essence of who you are. Masculine and feminine is both. We are both halves of God. God is the masculine extreme of the outer. God is the extreme inner world of the feminine. Together, this is how we create spirit and universe. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Love ya. Mwah.